got the gold in your mouth?
Well, we just threw that in our mouth. It's like buying a brand new hat.
Oh, just
There
something
ain't
to
like
do.
really no image or nothing.
It's just something to do.
We ain't really putting our arms around nobody because
We kind of fell back when Philly started blowing off crazy, right?
And we was still establishing ourselves at that same time, and we wasn't really in position to put other artists on.
Before Bow Wow, before Criss Cross, there were 3 Philly kids who made teenage rap sound grown. Taj, Cue Ball, and Reek, better known as the Youngstas, weren't some bubblegum act with ghostwriters. They were spitting their own bars, working with legends like Pete Rock, DJ Premier, and Marley Marl, and earning real respect in a scene that didn't hand it out easily. For a minute, it looked like they were next, but just as fast as they rose, they disappeared. This is the real story of how 3 teenage prodigies went from hip-hop's future to hip-hop's forgotten sons.
But for now, I'm a pass the mic. Pass the mic, y'all. Pass the mic.
The Youngstas came up when rap wasn't exactly handing out respect to teenagers. 3 kids from Philly, Taj, Cue Ball, and Reek, walked straight into a grown man's game and made people pay attention. They weren't some label gimmick either. Their dad, LG the teacher, was already known in the Philly rap circuit, producing for local legends and running pop art records. One day, Cue Ball hopped on a local track just for fun, and LG caught wind of it. Next thing you know, he's got his sons and nephew in a booth, and what started as a side experiment turned into the Youngstas, a real group with something to prove. Their first album felt different because it actually sounded like kids being real about their lives. No fake gangster talk, no corny dance rap energy, just teenage honesty. They were rapping about school, parents, growing up too fast, and trying to figure out where they fit in. It was rough around the edges, but full of heart, and that's what made it stand out. Critics who were used to hardcore street stories couldn't help but respect that these kids came in with their own lane. Then came the breakout moment, Pass to Meek. The track blew up fast, becoming their first big hit. It wasn't just the beat, it was the delivery. They had that "we belong here" energy. Even older rappers started paying attention when DJ Premier later flipped their verse into one of his own classics. A subtle nod that meant they'd officially earned stripes in the hip-hop world. But Da Youngstas weren't about to stay in the kiddie lane. A year later, they came back sharper and bolder, switching up everything from their look to their flow. They dropped the clean-cut image and went full serious. The new project had producers every aspiring rapper would dream of. DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Marley Marl, KG, the Beatnuts, all the heavy hitters. Getting that lineup was almost unheard of for a teenage group, but it showed how much respect they'd gained. Pete Rock gave them that classic head nod bounce, the Beatnuts brought funky chaos, and Marley Marl laid down pure East Coast grit. Suddenly, the Youngstas weren't just kids trying to rap. They were real contenders in a scene built on skill and survival. They'd stepped into the deep end and proved they could swim with the best of them.
The way people look at us with it, we got our own identity, so yeah, we trying to stand out
from everybody else.
Yeah.
The aftermath was the moment the Youngstas really broke through. The album charted everywhere and proved they weren't just another teenage act trying to sound grown. They were actually moving units. Their single with Tretch, Cruise Pop, went crazy on East Coast radio, blasting from car stereos and corner shops all summer. You could hear the difference instantly. They weren't little kids anymore. Their flow hit harder, their bars felt tighter, and they carried themselves like they finally knew just how good they were. It was clear they'd leveled up, but that new energy came with mixed reactions. Some people thought they were pushing the tough thing a little too hard, like they were trying to fit in with older rappers instead of just being themselves. Still, nobody could deny they earned respect the real way, by writing their own lyrics. At a time when other young acts had adults behind the pen, Da Youngstas were doing the work themselves. Even years later, critics would still call them one of the most gifted young rap groups to ever do it. And that independence was a big part of why. For Philly, they were more than a success story. They were proof that the city could go head-to-head with New York and actually hold its own. Their mix of street grit and raw honesty helped stamp Philly into the East Coast conversation in a way that felt authentic. They gave the city its own accent in the boom bap era, and it hit differently. But success moves fast, and the scene didn't wait around. Rap had shifted, beats got darker, lyrics got colder, and the whole sound of the culture was evolving. While New York was getting grimier, and the radio was filling up with glossy hooks and shiny suits, the Youngstas decided to flip the script again. They came back under a new name, the Youngstas Illy Funkstaz, ready to start another chapter and see if they could survive in a game that had already changed on them.
We ain't really putting our arms around nobody because
we kind of fell back when Philly started blowing off crazy, right?
And we was still establishing ourselves at that same time, and we wasn't really in position to put other artists on.
Switching to the Youngstas Illy Funkstaz wasn't just a rebrand. It was them drawing a line in the sand. The name showed up all over their next record, I'll Make You Famous, and the sound matched the attitude. No more superstar producers or fancy studio gloss. This time it was just cue ball, their close crew, and a few trusted hands behind the boards. Everything felt stripped down and straight from the gut. The beats hit harder, the edges were rougher, and the whole thing carried the kind of weight that comes from doing it all yourself. The album's mood was darker than anything they'd done before. Gone were the days of lighthearted bars about growing up. Now it was titles like Verbal Glock and Murda. It was obvious these weren't kids anymore. They'd grown up inside the chaos of hip-hop, and the music showed it. The standout moment came with Bloodshed and War, their track with Mobb Deep. Produced by Cue Ball, it sounded like pure East Coast grit, cold, minimal, and real. It felt less like a feature and more like a statement that they'd evolved into something raw and fearless. I'll Make You Famous didn't match their earlier chart runs, but it earned something else that mattered more: respect. It became one of those underground records that people rediscovered later, realizing how ahead of its time it was. Critics eventually looked back at it as one of those albums that traded easy fame for honesty. Today it's considered a cult favorite, the kind of project that captured a group standing between two worlds. Too real for radio, too independent to fit the industry mold. The irony was heavy. The same independence that made them credible also made them invisible. They'd gone from teenage prodigies to fully grown MCs, but the system didn't know what to do with artists who weren't chasing trends or chasing hits. By then, they weren't the same kids who used to rap about school and family. They'd been through it, seen the game for what it was, and kept their authenticity even when it cost them. Their story wasn't about falling off. It was about how hip-hop itself had changed, rewarding flash over truth and leaving behind the ones who refused to fake it. Back then, most young rappers were treated like novelties, fun for a moment, but not taken seriously. The Youngstas changed that completely. They weren't label puppets or some cute kid rap act. They were writers who actually had something to say. People in the scene caught on fast. Instead of focusing on their age, critics pointed out how sharp they were, how they could hold their own with adults in a genre built on skill. That realness became their entire identity. At a time when most young acts were rapping words written for them, the Youngstas were doing it themselves. And they had legends like DJ Premier and Pete Rock backing their sound. Even now, when people revisit that era, the same point comes up. They weren't manufactured, they were self-made. That's what earned them respect from both purists and the next generation of rappers who grew up studying them.
Else, just trying to find a way, you know what I'm saying? So all the kids out here in Philly, they trying to find a way. So we just try to help them, give them a little, a little heads up and guidance and show them what not to do.
What they did quietly changed the rules. These days, people expect young rappers to write their own verses, to show they've got pen game and not just a catchy hook. That whole idea traces back to what Da Youngstas proved was possible out of Philly. They made being young and credible coexist. Even if they're not a household name, their marks is still everywhere. A line from their Pass the Mic remix ended up sampled by DJ Premier for Gang Starr's Mass Appeal, connecting them to one of hip-hop's most legendary records. And the producers they worked with, Pete Rock, Premier, Marley Marl, the Beatnuts, basically built the East Coast sound people still study today. When fans dig through old school beats or YouTube deep dives about golden era rap, the Youngstas always pop up again. Proof they were never just part of the moment, they helped shape it. Online, they'd built their own little corner of the internet, a tight community still keeping their memory alive. Their group page was full of throwback clips, backstage photos, and fans trading memories like they were family. It wasn't about chasing trends, it was a small, loyal crowd that just never stopped caring. And honestly, their impact stretched way past nostalgia. The Youngstas gave Philly a blueprint. Focus on the bars, find the right producers, and let skill speak louder than image. They showed the city could stand toe-to-toe with New York and still sound original. Later artists took the sound in their own directions. The Roots turned it musical, Beanie Sigel made it street, Eve gave it edge, but they were all walking through a door the Youngstas had already cracked open.